Morning to you on this Tuesday morning, April the 7th. Our daily Devo's title today is God Brings About Good from Evil. Quote from Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose. Often we can see how bad things work together for good. The problem is that we can only glimpse this sometimes in a limited number of cases. But why could it not be that God allowed evil because it will bring us all to a far greater glory than joy than we would have had otherwise? Isn't it possible that the eventual glory and joy we will know will be infinitely greater than it would have been had there been no evil? What if that future world will somehow be greater for having once been broken and lost? If such is the case, that would truly mean the utter defeat of evil. Evil would not just be an obstacle to our beauty and bliss, but it will have only made it better. Evil would have accomplished the very opposite of what it intended. How might that come about? At the simplest level, we know that only if there is danger can there be courage. And apart from sin and evil, we would never have seen the courage of God or the astonishing extent of his love or the glory of a deity who walks aside his glory and goes to the cross. Those last couple lines, what came to my mind was he's talking about if we didn't have bad things happen, we would never see the glory of God and the will of God being worked out. Made me think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego thrown into a fiery den of stoked up fire. The king wanted it to be as hot as it possibly could be. They made it so hot that the men who threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into there got burned up themselves. And so there they are, they're in there. And the king who's ordered it is keeping an eye. And he looks and he looks and he looks. He said, didn't we just throw three guys in there? Looks to me like there's four. And that fourth one looks like the Son of Man. And sure enough, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and the king of Babylon got to see the good worked out because God took hold. God worked out his plan in glorifying himself by delivering those three faithful young men and impressing the king all at the same time. It was an evil thing. He was being evil. He wanted to be worshiped. He wanted to be worshiped. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego weren't going along with that. Neither was Daniel, who got thrown into the lion's den. And God protects him as well. Both of those things are horribly negative. Daniel could have been eaten up. He wasn't. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego could have been burned to a crisp. They weren't because God stepped in. Can you imagine the three of those guys walking out of that furnace? Oh, wow, that was cool, wasn't it? We were goners, and yet God showed up and intervened on our behalf. Daniel, I know we have all kinds of pictures of Daniel sitting along a ledge down in the lion's den, and the lions just laying there looking at him. But in reality, it's the same thing as happened to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That was certain death. That's why he was thrown in there to die. Didn't feed the lions, so they'd be hungry and they'd want a nice tiny morsel of Daniel, maybe the whole morsel of Daniel. It just this brief writing of Tim Keller here makes me think of that. We do the woe is me thing so often when bad things are happening. I know it sneaks up on me as well, and I begin to feel sorry for myself. And then I ask the Lord for help in that, and He gets me straightened out. God brings about good from evil. That is the same picture as the cross as well. If it wasn't for the Lord in ordaining that cross and the evil of it, all the evil of the Romans, the Jewish religious leaders, all of the things that went together to put him there were visibly evil. Lying, bribing, all kinds of just terrible human traits being worked out. And it was as evil. Being crucified was as evil as it could be. And yet, guess what? As a result of that crucifixion and his being dead and buried and risen again, oh, what good came from that evil. It's what Satan intended it to be. He intended to work that out in an evil way, to do evil for the sake of evil, so that nobody would want to follow Jesus, so that he could take away any kind of influence that what Jesus was doing on that cross. He wanted to take that away, remove it, and make people forget about it. He tempted Jesus in the wilderness. And every time Jesus answered back with Scripture. He offered Jesus some pretty big things, but Jesus wasn't taking the bait. Evil, if we're looking at it properly, we understand who's behind it, and we understand who can help us the best. All of those things in the Scriptures that were intended for evil came very close to being worked through by the fallen humans involved. And at the end, God said, "Step aside, son. I'll take care of this one." And he works with us. And what he does in those days, in those moments, in those situations, what he does for us is to teach us, to train us, to strengthen our faith, to not fall away, to not back off, to not run scared, but to understand while the enemy's up to something here, God is up to something greater. And he will deliver us, and he will give us wisdom, and he will order our steps. For the steps of the righteous are ordered by the Lord. Appreciate your prayers for me today as I'm taking a trip down for a district meeting a little bit further down in our district area. It's going to be in the Wilkes-Barre area. To be a gathering of the pastors and delegates from the churches and such as that. And so I'll be driving down. It's like an hour and a half one way. And just appreciate your prayers for safety on the road and safety for my car. You never know when it's going to have an issue. So blessings to you today. And again, appreciate your prayers.